Aaron's story begins in the turbulent years of 2015 and 2016, when his family found themselves uprooted from their familiar surroundings and thrust into a new and unfamiliar environment. At just 16 years old, Aaron felt the weight of uncertainty as his family moved abruptly, their future uncertain as they settled into a temporary apartment in south-central Los Angeles. This was a part of the city known for its gritty reputation, a neighborhood marked by crime and unease. They had arrived with the understanding that their stay would be short-lived, just a few months before they would move on to something better. But those few months stretched into years, and Aaron and his family remained trapped in a place they never intended to call home. The first thing Aaron noticed upon entering the apartment was the smell. It was a pungent odor, like fresh paint, that clung to the walls and lingered in the air. It was odd because the apartment had been vacant for months, the windows left open to air it out, yet the smell persisted. Aaron's mom had visited before, and she was puzzled by the scent. Aaron's sister was vocal in her disgust, crinkling her nose and declaring it disgusting. But the smell was only the beginning of their troubles. Then there were the flies. Not just a few, but a swarm of them, buzzing incessantly as if drawn by something unseen. It was as if they had left meat out to rot, but there was nothing there to attract them. Aaron's dad swatted at them furiously, but they seemed endless. While his parents busied themselves trying to rid the apartment of the pests, Aaron decided to explore their new home. The apartment was dark, with open windows that let in the dim light of the overcast Los Angeles sky. The rooms felt cold and uninviting, as if the warmth that should have been there had been sucked out, leaving only a hollow shell. Aaron wandered into his mom's room and felt an even stronger chill. The air was colder there, and the room had a feeling of unease that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. It was as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for something. Leaving the unsettling atmosphere of his mom's room behind, Aaron continued to explore. His siblings were busy staking out their own spaces, but his curiosity led him to the bathroom. It was tiny, cramped, with an old cabinet mirror that was the only thing not replaced in the recent renovations. The wood was dark and appeared to be rotting, yet there was no smell. The mirror was foggy, almost as if it was trying to hide what lay beneath its surface. Aaron opened the cabinet, half expecting to find nothing of interest. Instead, he was met with a chilling sight. Teeth. Not dentures, but real human teeth. They were big, adult teeth, pulled out and left behind as if they were trophies of some macabre collection. He picked them up, feeling the weight of the enamel in his hand, turning them over in disbelief. These were no Halloween props. They were disturbingly real. He hurried out of the bathroom, clutching the teeth in his hand, and went straight to his parents. "Look at these," he said, holding out his grim discovery. His mom was dismissive at first, insisting they were fake, while his dad looked at him with skepticism, thinking it was some kind of prank. But Aaron insisted, his voice tinged with urgency. "They were in the bathroom," he explained, his mind racing with possibilities of where they came from. His parents remained unconvinced, chalking it up to some elaborate joke. But Aaron knew better. The dogs, which had been uncharacteristically still since they arrived, stood at the entrance, refusing to come in. Their eyes were fixed on something unseen, and their refusal to move added to the growing sense of unease. Aaron's mom finally relented, telling him to throw the teeth away. He did, flushing them down the toilet, but the memory of their weight lingered. For 2 weeks, the flies remained a constant nuisance, buzzing and swarming as if the apartment itself was decaying from within. They expected the problem to resolve quickly, but the flies were relentless, as if something was keeping them there. Despite their best efforts, the problem persisted, and an unsettling feeling hung over the apartment like a shroud. The weeks dragged on, leading up to October, the month of Halloween. With no money for costumes, Aaron's family decided to stay indoors, avoiding the festivities outside. They had already put up some decorations, a few remnants of their attempts to make the apartment feel like home. Aaron's parents had a penchant for antique furniture, some of which came from estate sales, pieces with histories and stories of their own. The furniture seemed to fit the ambiance of the apartment, adding to the air of mystery that surrounded them. One night, as they settled in for an evening of watching Netflix, the apartment was plunged into darkness. The only light came from the kitchen, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. The living room was dimly lit, with only the glow of the screen illuminating their faces. It was quiet, the silence broken only by the sound of the television. Suddenly, Aaron heard it. A voice calling his name. Aaron, Aaron. He looked up, expecting to see his brother Daniel playing a prank. But Daniel denied calling him, his face blank with confusion. Aaron's mom, with a nervous chuckle, joked that the apartment was haunted. Aaron tried to dismiss it, reassuring himself that it was just his mom's attempt at humor. But deep down, a knot of fear tightened in his stomach. His family had a history with the supernatural, a background steeped in the traditions of brujeria. They were taught to respect the unseen, to acknowledge the spirits that lingered on the edges of their reality. Aaron's mom believed in these things, and her words carried weight. The dogs, sensing something amiss, stood guard at the hallway entrance, their fur bristling as they stared into the shadows. That night, as they prepared for bed, the family performed their usual ritual of saying goodnight. It was a comforting tradition, a way to anchor themselves in the midst of the strange happenings. Aaron, always the last to sleep, found himself alone in the darkness, the apartment shrouded in silence. Armed with only the flashlight on his phone, he ventured into the hallway, feeling the oppressive weight of the shadows pressing in around him. The dogs, Soy and Jade, were positioned in front of the room, their eyes fixed on the darkness beyond. Aaron felt their unease as if it were his own, and the sense of dread was palpable. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever, an endless tunnel leading into the unknown. Aaron flashed his light into the darkness, but saw nothing. Still, the dogs remained vigilant, their eyes betraying a fear that mirrored his own. As the days turned into weeks, the strange occurrences continued. Shadows flickered in the corners of their vision, whispers echoed through the empty rooms, and the sense of being watched became an ever-present reality. The dogs were always on edge, reacting to sounds and movements that only they could perceive. Aaron's mom sought solace in her faith, praying for protection against the unseen forces that seemed to have taken root in their home. One evening, as they gathered in the living room, they heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps in the hallway. It was a deliberate, measured pace, as if someone was walking back and forth just out of sight. The atmosphere grew tense, the air thick with anticipation. The dogs were the first to react, growling and snarling at the invisible intruder. Then, as if in response, a tiara flew off the shelf, hurtling down the hallway with violent force. The family watched in disbelief as the tiara sailed through the air, landing with a metallic clatter. The dogs barked furiously, their teeth bared as they lunged at the unseen presence. Aaron's mom sprang into action, her voice firm as she began to pray aloud. The words filled the air, a barrier against the encroaching darkness. Slowly, the tension eased, the oppressive weight lifting as the presence retreated. The incident left the family shaken, but their resolve was strengthened. Aaron's mom reached out to her sister, a woman well-versed in the darker arts of magic. Her aunt practiced black magic, the kind that delved into the deepest recesses of the supernatural. She warned Aaron's mom that something malevolent had taken root in their home, a spirit that had no intention of leaving. As time passed, the entity's presence became more pronounced. It crept into their dreams, twisting their subconscious into a nightmare realm where reality and fantasy blurred. Aaron's sister, plagued by night terrors, began to see an old woman standing at the foot of her bed. The woman's face was obscured by a black veil, her silent screams piercing the stillness of the night. The dreams grew more frequent, each one more vivid than the last. Sleep became an elusive refuge, haunted by the specter of the veiled woman. Aaron's sister confided in him, sharing the details of her nightmares with a trembling voice. The woman was relentless, her presence an unwelcome intruder in the realm of dreams. Aaron felt powerless, unable to offer comfort as his sister grappled with the terror that threatened to consume her. Desperate for relief, Aaron's mom sought the aid of a local church. The pastor, accompanied by a group of parishioners, came to bless the apartment. They moved from room to room, their prayers echoing through the halls. As they reached Aaron's room, the pastor paused, sensing something amiss. He lingered at the threshold, his eyes narrowed as he took in the room's atmosphere. The pastor's words carried a weight of authority, and as he blessed Aaron's sister, he assured her that the entity would no longer be able to touch her. It was a promise of protection, a shield against the malevolent force that sought to harm them. The blessing brought a measure of peace, and for a time the activity subsided. But the respite was short-lived. Aaron awoke one night, the need to use the restroom pulling him from sleep. As he stepped into the hallway, he found Soy and Jade standing guard, their eyes fixed on something unseen. He tried to ignore their behavior, chalking it up to their natural instincts. But as he returned to bed, he caught sight of a figure standing in the corner of the room. It was a tall, lanky man, his back turned as he faced the wall. His presence was unnerving, his form shrouded in shadows that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Aaron's heart pounded in his chest, fear coursing through his veins as he watched the figure. The dogs, sensing the danger, stood by his side, their low growls rumbling through the silence. Aaron closed his eyes, willing the apparition to disappear. He opened them again, and the room was empty. The figure was gone, leaving behind only the lingering sense of dread. He bolted from the room, his footsteps echoing in the hallway, as he sought the comfort of his mom's presence. She listened to his frantic recounting, her own fear mirrored in his wide eyes. The events left a lasting impression on Aaron, a scar etched into the fabric of his memory. The apartment became a prison, a place where the supernatural held sway and reality was a fragile illusion. Yet despite the fear, they remained, trapped by circumstance and unable to escape the grip of the entity that haunted them. As the years passed, Aaron's family learned to coexist with the spirit. It became a silent companion, lurking on the periphery of their lives. They learned to ignore the whispers, the shadows that flickered just out of sight. It was a precarious balance, a truce with the unknown that could be shattered at any moment. But the entity was not content to remain in the shadows. It sought to manifest in their reality, taking on new forms that blurred the line between the living and the dead. Aaron's sister, with her prophetic dreams, became attuned to the spirit's presence. She saw it in her dreams, a constant companion that twisted her visions into nightmares. The spirit took on a new form, one that was eerily familiar. It mimicked Aaron, taking on his appearance and mannerisms. It was a disconcerting experience, seeing himself through the eyes of the entity. It was a reminder that they were never truly alone, that the spirit was always watching, always waiting. The realization that they were dealing with a mimic added a new layer of complexity to their situation. It was a creature of deception, a being that thrived on fear and uncertainty. They were caught in its web, unable to break free from its grasp. Aaron's family sought answers, delving into folklore and legend to understand the nature of the mimic. They learned that it was a creature of shadows, a spirit that could not be easily banished. It was a part of their reality, an inescapable presence that defied explanation. Despite their efforts, the spirit remained, a constant reminder of the apartment's dark history. Aaron's mom, with her deep-rooted beliefs in the supernatural, turned to her faith for strength. She prayed for protection, for the courage to face the unknown with resilience and determination. But the entity was relentless, its influence seeping into every aspect of their lives. It whispered to them in the darkness, sowing seeds of doubt and fear. It was a battle for their sanity, a struggle to maintain their grip on reality as the spirits sought to unravel their world. Aaron's family continued to experience the supernatural, even as the years passed. The apartment became a place of mystery, a place where the veil between worlds was thin and fragile. It was a place where the dead walked among the living, where the past and present collided in a dance of shadows and light. And so they remained, bound by circumstance to a place they never intended to call home. It was a place where the supernatural held sway, where the unseen reigned supreme. It was a place of fear and wonder, a place where Aaron's story would continue to unfold, shrouded in mystery and steeped in the unknown.